Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Basically, it's about a $34 billion standstill budget from last year.
Work from state lawmakers after a regular and special session at the Capitol.
I became convinced right there that there was more Calvin Mackeys in the community that need to be exposed.
The founder of STEM NOLA and how remedial classes in college motivated him to excel and help others find STEM careers.
Luckily, as far as the old governor's mansion goes, we already had a virtual tour in place.
Preserve Louisiana offers online events with more people staying at home. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, the latest coronavirus numbers in the state are seeing a spike. Wednesday saw almost 2,100 new positive cases.
East Baton Rouge has become the new hotspot in the state with new cases, especially in the 18 to 29 age group. The governor says all the gains made to reduce the spread have been lost.
Louisiana is back squarely on the radar of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Yesterday, I had a long conversation with Dr. Birx, going over the recent trends that we've seen here in Louisiana. And by the way, they match very much what's going on in other parts of the country as well. But her big concern is the increase in positivity, and it was that increasing positivity in our state, and principally here in the Baton Rouge area, which is why Dr. Birx called me.
Beginning today, Baton Rouge Mayor Sharon Weston Broome announced a no mask, no service executive order for businesses. It is so businesses can remain open and safely serve customers. There's also a mask mandate once you leave your home. East Baton Rouge joins Orleans and Jefferson parishes with those mandates. And now we'll look at other headlines making news across Louisiana. The new surge in coronavirus infections is making critical contact tracing difficult, as authorities say there is just too much virus and for some too many contacts to trace. In addition, some people are not answering phone calls or giving information. The state health department says only 59% of those testing positive for COVID-19 have responded to calls from contact tracers. Some doctors are seeing major psychological effects of the coronavirus pandemic lockdown as patients cope with months of isolation, job loss, and life changes. There are increasing reports of patients with weight gain, anxiety and depression, alcohol and drug abuse, and sexual dysfunction. And these are impacts on people not even diagnosed with COVID-19. Many are patients who have never before reported mental health concerns. A state grand jury is accusing 8 police officers from Shreveport of using excessive force in the arrest of 2 men after a chase in January. The grand jury this week charging each officer with 1 count of malfeasance in office. Prosecutors have dropped all charges against Chico Bell and Damon Robinson, the 2 men arrested. The Supreme Court on Monday striking down a state law that could have left Louisiana with a single abortion clinic. Chief Justice John Roberts added a crucial 5th vote to those of the court's 4-member liberal wing, saying that respect for precedent compelled him to do so, even though he had voted to uphold an essentially identical Texas law in a 2016 dissent. Dixie Beer will soon have a new name. Owner Gail Benson made the announcement about the regionally iconic brand founded in New Orleans 110 years ago. Benson releasing a statement saying in light of critical conversations about racism and systemic social issues, it is necessary to reflect on the role of our brewery for future generations. Benson says the company will choose a name that best represents our culture and community. Area Development Magazine recognizing the state with the Silver Shovel Award again as one of the nation's best economic development performances for 2019. Projects submitted by the state represent more than $7.2 billion in capital investment and 1,800 new direct jobs. It's the 9th time in the past 11 years the state has been awarded. The U.S. Army has awarded LSU a $10 million transmission electron microscope. Senator John Kennedy supported the project, saying Louisiana is doing its part to help the U.S. win the technology race. The addition of the microscope will help reinforce LSU's position as a top research university, attracting leading educators, scientists, and students. The famed Bill Conti and his wife, Shelby Cox Conti, both LSU alums, are giving the university one of the biggest in-kind gifts in history, the original scores from Conti's prolific career as a composer and conductor. The William and Shelby Conti papers will be held in LSU's library's special collections and will include scores from his Academy Award-winning The Right Stuff and Rocky.
The special legislative session ended Tuesday amid a surge in COVID-19 and a week after the governor's decision to extend the phase 2 reopening. The budget was center focus. The governor says the budget is workable.
The budget that was passed obviously is not the budget that we envisioned whenever I gave my opening address to the legislature back at the start of the regular session. At that time, the economy was doing extremely well. COVID-19 had not yet hit Louisiana in any real way and so forth. And obviously revenue was much better than it is currently. We had worked over the last 4 years to break that cycle that had plagued Louisiana for so long with perpetual deficits and cuts and mid-year cuts and expenditures of one-time money and all of that sort of stuff. And because of the REC forecast, we're actually $900 million in state general fund below where we needed to be. And thank goodness for the CARES Act funding that was made available to us. And I want to thank Congress for that, and particularly our congressional delegation, because it made a tremendous difference. And to be here today because of the CARES Act with a workable budget, one that's not ideal. There are still cuts, principally to higher education and health care, which, as you know, those are the go-to parts of the budget anytime you have to find state general fund in relatively large amounts, and they were again this year. But the CARES Act funding allowed us to pass what I believe is a workable budget, and one that in many, many respects.
The Republicans' response highlights good work on both sides of the aisle. They issued this statement. Put Louisiana First has been a strong supporter of the leadership style Republican Clay Shakespeare has demonstrated, including his election to Speaker against the forces of the Capitol Swamp insiders. We also support the prudent Louisiana First leadership of John Bel Edwards that has proven so valuable in these challenging days. We thank both leaders for holding fast to their core principles while protecting Louisiana from the divisive partisanship hurting America today.
And for more perspective on this year's regular and special sessions, I talked with Greg Hilburn of USA Today Network.
First of all, let's talk about the session in a pandemic. If it changed things or if it changed everything.
Well, I think it changed everything because it was immediately on the defensive. If you recall, almost as soon as the session started, in fact, the day it started was when, or the day after was when the first Louisiana reported its first coronavirus case. And shortly after that, a death. Lawmakers suspended the session, came back in May. This is the regular session, and were unable to complete a budget. So this special session that began June 1st was really kind of a continuation of the regular session, because constitutionally, Louisiana has to present a balanced budget. As you know, the Revenue Estimating Conference which determines how much money the state has to spend, estimated that the economic disaster created by the pandemic was going to blow about nearly a $1 billion hole in the budget. But they were able to mitigate that $100 million by tapping what's known as the state's rainy day fund, moving about $100 million from there, and also some federal relief from Congress to ultimately present basically a standstill budget. Popular things like TOPS tuition scholarship program, social services, K through 12 education, all that funding was preserved. There were some cuts, though not devastating or catastrophic cuts to higher education, but basically it's about a $34 billion standstill budget from last year. We're almost certainly will be back for another special session in October, and that's when the economists will have even a better feel on how the pandemic is impacting the economy. And also, the state is hopeful there'll be some more federal relief in the form of funding that can go directly to replace lost revenue. Right now, the funding can only replace expenses. For the state has $1.8 billion to replace expenses created by COVID. But the state is hopeful that the Congress will pass some more relief that they can replace lost revenue with.
What's your takeaway from having gone through a regular session and a special session and being in the middle of what we're in the middle of?
There's no teacher pay raises as we had hoped, and some other goodies when we had a surplus before this happened. But it's important at least to keep, I think, the confidence of the people and, to kind of hold off any kind of a panic of major cuts to critical services while we continue to see how this plays out. And as I said, I believe we'll be back in October with more information and maybe to make adjustments on the budget. We'll just have to see. I think that the lawmakers were intent on providing helping stand up businesses, and they were able to do that with a $300 million grant program. And there were also passed some tax reductions, some business tax cuts, and then a token to the people who were on the front lines is $250 check. So there were some things that were accomplished. I think they probably could have been accomplished without going into special session. But as it turns out, it got accomplished.
We'll keep in touch with you if we have to do by Zoom or maybe in person at some point. Thank you.
All right. It's always an honor to be on your show. Thank you, Andre.
STEM NOLA got its start in Dr. Calvin Mackey's garage. It was a complaint from one of his sons that got his mind moving. And in no time at all, his garage was filled with kids anxious to learn, and he had a new mission. It was the words of his second grader that triggered an idea for a science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM program that now attracts thousands.
He came home and he said, "Dad, I don't like science anymore." And I said, "Boy, that's not possible. It's in your DNA." He said, "No, Daddy, last year I had a teacher that did a lot of hands-on, but the teacher this year only talks to the board."
Dr. Calvin Mackey, former tenured engineering professor at Tulane, determined to keep his son interested in science, put his professor hat on at home.
So we began to do a lot of experiments, started doing experiments in the garage, and it became a big thing for the neighborhood. I mean, kids in the neighborhood came over, they started doing experiments with us.
And then great news, his son got all A's, but...
And he said, "Daddy, my friends want to know how I know all this." And I said, "Well, did you tell your friends you do this in the garage with your daddy?" And he said, "Yeah, Daddy, but my friends need this." And I realized right then and there that my son had the empathy and compassion to realize that he was exposed to somebody and things that his friends were not. And he really believed in his heart of hearts, if his friends were exposed to those people and those things, they'll be just as smart as him. And at that moment also, I realized that I was keeping my time, my talent, and my treasure, like many of us do, only to my two sons and the people closest to me, and then to the broader community.
December of 2013, STEM NOLA was conceived. It began with a single event called STEM Fest.
And we plan to have 100 parents and kids. And to our amazement, we had over 400 parents and kids show up on a Saturday morning in the rain to get STEM. And Natasha, we realized right then and there was a thirst in the community for what we had to offer.
STEM Fest is now an annual event, but STEM NOLA meets on the second Saturday of every month, inviting up to 200 kids for a themed event.
We may focus on chemistry, the physics of sound, on force and motion, and we do these events and align activities with the standards that teachers have to do during school. So in the last nearly 7 years, we've engaged over 10,000 kids. Over 40,000 kids and 10,000 families. And I'm even more happy to say that we've engaged over 1,500 college students and STEM professionals as facilitators. We've put over $700,000 in the hands of college students who we hire as college interns.
Dr. Mackey and his wife started the nonprofit STEM NOLA with $100,000 of their own money. But over the years, major corporations have anteed up, helping propel the effort forward.
Our two biggest sponsors are Chevron and Entergy. The biggest sponsor now is Entergy. We're STEM NOLA powered by Entergy. And what we do is we have these big events around electricity, transmission, and power. So Entergy has a way of sending their employees into the community and teaching that which they're doing on a daily basis. So the employees are not intimidated because they're like, this is what I do and this is who I am. And we don't ask them to be anything else. Chevron is a big sponsor because we have a big chemistry day and they send their employees out and they talk about being a scientist or being an engineer and the chemistry of the things that they do. Boeing is a big sponsor because they're building, one of the largest rockets in the world right here in New Orleans. And they participate, NASA Michoud have participated in every launch of a rocket in the U.S. for NASA. So we have a big rocket day for them that they underwrite and all the employees come out. But we also have days where we just have smaller companies get together and all of them, that's what you call collective impact. So instead of them putting up thousands and thousands of dollars like an Entergy, each company can put up $500 or $1,000.
And with his program surging, growing, and passing major milestones, Dr. Mackey had to pivot STEM NOLA because of COVID-19.
We took everything that we was doing offline, and within 3 weeks, we converted it and put it online. So now we have online programming. You can go to STEMNOLA.com. We've had 6, 7, 8 summer camps. We have a big summer camp coming up, sponsored by UB Tech Robotics, the largest commercial robotic builder in the United States in Chevron. We have 200 free slots for kids in the state of Louisiana. But we have these Thursday programs because we said, we got to continue to engage our kids. So on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central, we have STEM NOLA at home, and every Thursday for an hour, we have some topic that we're doing, and the parents can go to STEMNOLA.com, download a material list.
Dr. Mackey says STEM NOLA relies heavily on social media presence to get the word out, and the word is getting out in a big way, not just in the U.S., but overseas.
We constantly upload to social media pictures, videos, interviews to show what other kids are getting. And then parents go, how can my kid get that? So that's what keeps it going. And somebody shared it with somebody in Ghana. So the person in Ghana started putting kids on in Ghana at 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I'm happy to say today we shipped our first big box. My team just called me and told me how much it costs. I got to find a sponsor, but we just shipped it to Ghana because they're watching us, but they don't have all the materials that they need. So we've committed to sending them the materials and doing what they need. They've even asked if we can do one event at 3 a.m. in the morning when it's 9 a.m. there so they can have more kids, and we've even committed to that.
Another big sponsor of STEM NOLA is Ochsner Health Systems. They recently donated a 42,000 square foot building in an effort to strengthen the program and further its reach.
Online courses became the new normal for schools in the state following the COVID outbreak. What about when students return to classes in August? If you've got questions like this about the upcoming school year, we want to hear from you. Submit your written or video questions online at lpb.org/reopening. You can also email publicsquare@lpb.org. We'll try to get answers for you on the July episode of Louisiana Public Square, Reopening Education. That airs Wednesday, the 22nd of July at 7 p.m. Preserve Louisiana is moving some of its attractions online in a virtual setting as the coronavirus pandemic keeps many people home. Some virtual events were already offered, but new historical lectures include the history of plantations with the 3D imaging of where and how slaves lived.
We work in cultural and architectural preservation.
Fairleigh Jackson is executive director of Preserve Louisiana.
And one of our main goals of promoting the heritage of our state is through education. So, of course, Andre, we've seen a very big halt in our ability to propose those programs and engage people. So we've had to come up with some kind of new and innovative ways to do that. Now, luckily, as far as the old governor's mansion goes, we already had a virtual tour in place, and we've had that in place for 3 years. So we're lucky to be able to enjoy that and to offer that to our patrons. So we've been updating that. We have really fun new badges and quizzes and things like that. We have an intro from our First Lady. So that's the old governor's mansion side. On the education side about our programming that does, everything from architectural to cultural preservation, we just had our first virtual lecture 2 weeks ago with Jason Church, where we talked about the 3D mapping of tenant cabins and old former slave dwellings. What we see is what people call a plantation is really just the remnants of what used to be a plantation and a big house. So what the National Center for Preservation and Planning and Technology has done is basically taken their 3D mapping imagery abilities to recreate these tenant cabins and slave dwellings that have been torn down and place them where they would have been and talk about what they would have looked like with those accommodations. Accommodations is a very generous term. What those dwellings would have looked like.
In this program, preservationist Jason Church uses photography and laser scanning to showcase the documentation of 9 structures along the Cane River in Natchitoches Parish.
How painful this is, and instructional, informational for people who want to know a history that's not a revisionist history.
It is not. It is not. It is actual history. We are encouraging all of our partners. We're working with several partners around the state who have finally come to us and said, we know that you have been pushing for this full narrative, and we are offering that kind of guidance in our best way, knowing that we are not fully capable of providing all of that guidance, but bringing in partners as well. So I would definitely say stay tuned to see the work that we're doing with many entities around the state to help them tell their full narrative.
A large part of preserving historical buildings involves the state historical tax credits. The 20% state commercial tax credit was created in 2002 by the state legislature to encourage the redevelopment of income-producing historic buildings in the state's downtown development districts.
If you would touch on the importance of the historic tax credit, what that means for us in Louisiana.
Yeah, so, in broader terms, you're mentioning the actual investment. That is so important, Andre. Also, I'd say the number of structures, we're approaching 1,500, and that is a huge amount of structures. A lot of people think that many of these projects are just happening in New Orleans, but that's just not true. It's all over the state. The bigger picture, numbers aside, is that we are revitalizing communities. And this is not just happening in our larger urban areas. These are the main street and rural areas of our communities. 50% of these projects are under $500,000, and they rely on this tax credit. They would not be able to do these projects without this tax credit.
For example, downtown Baton Rouge owes its comeback to the tax credits as they become a huge economic driving force. Preserve Louisiana will soon offer a partnership promoting the capital city's downtown.
We are launching a downtown cultural passport program with the Old State Capitol, the USS Kidd, Louisiana Art and Science Museum, the LSU Museum of Art, the Capitol Park Museum. So you go and you do a tour of each place, And then once you've completed that passport, you can go to a dozen downtown businesses and receive discounts at those businesses, including a discount with Go Ride, which is our local bike rental entity downtown, to go explore downtown. This is not a time for traveling, so come downtown and enjoy all of the many cultural entities and all the wonderful businesses we have that are being very safe and healthy. You know, I'm down there every day, and our downtown has been phenomenal in their approach and their responsibility with this pandemic.
Now, for more information about all that, you can go to the website for Preserve Louisiana and email info@preserve-louisiana.org. Everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB app.
You can catch LPB news, public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For everyone here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.